Hello there, adventurers, and welcome to Wally DM. Today we're going to take a look at a trap from Trapsmith. Now, this was a Kobold Press release a few years ago for the Pathfinder game, and this thing is chock full of traps that you can put in your game. All kinds of great ideas. But the one in particular we're going to look at today reminds me of Indiana Jones' Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I'm sure you're familiar with that scene where Indiana Jones is trying to swap out an item to obtain an artifact. And when he does, he triggers a trap and a boulder comes crushing down and he's got to run out of this temple or he's just going to get smashed. Well, in Trapsmith, there is a boulder trap in there that is kind of similar to that, but this thing is spiced up and taken to the next level. You're really going to like this one because unlike Indiana Jones, your characters are going to have to deal with a boulder that's crushing and coming at them, and it is going to have tentacles that sprout from it and try to grab them. Today we're going to take a look at a trap from Trapsmith called Ball of Tentacles. So this is the setup of our trap, and our adventurers are traveling west, and they come out of this 10-foot corridor. I've got a little key here showing that each square represents 5 feet. So this 10-foot wide corridor, and they enter into this room, and in the middle of this room is a pit or some type of a deep shaft, and this pit goes down, and it's about 20 feet in diameter, and it almost looks endless. We may even put like a darkness spell, a magical darkness spell or whatever, but it looks like it goes down for quite a ways. Now there's really nothing else in this chamber, but as our adventurers start to approach and they see this other corridor, now this corridor here is 5, 10, 15, 20 feet across, and when they start to travel in this direction, they'll notice that the slope of this corridor is at a slight incline, so they're starting to walk uphill here. And what these little U-shaped areas here represent, these are like alcoves, and these alcoves are probably about 5 to 10 feet deep. There's nothing special about them. They just seem to be hollowed out indentations in the walls. So about every 10 feet there is an alcove. Now when our adventurers get to about this point here, so this area here is where our trap is triggered, and the book really doesn't say what triggers a trap, whether it's some type of a line that goes across or if they're pressure plates, but I'm actually going to say that it is just a motion sensor. So if any creatures cross through this area, whether they're flying through, walking through, climbing on the ceiling and trying to get through, entering this 10-foot section of the corridor is going to trigger the trap. And when the trap is triggered, the characters are going to hear a low rumbling noise. And that's going to be accompanied by tremors and then a shower of dust. And that is going to signal the arrival of a big boulder. Now, my D20 is a little bit big here, but it will work for the purposes of demonstration of this trap. Now, at this point, I would like for all of the characters to roll initiative. And going with the book, the boulder that has just appeared is going to have an initiative of 7. Now, once again, these all represent 5-foot squares. So from the point where the boulder is at to this end here is going to be exactly 65 feet. And one more thing to note is our boulder is going to move at 60 feet per turn. Now, if you notice, this is our Indiana Jones-esque trap. So we have this boulder that's coming down, and again, I did say this is on an incline, so this thing's going to just come rumbling and smashing anything in its way. Now, our characters have a few options. They can run for their life and go this way, or they could try to hide in one of these alcoves. Let's say that our rogue went up in this direction, realized he triggered the trap, runs over and hides here. And maybe another character is just like, running this way as fast as they can. And another character character just hides here trying to dip into the alcoves. And of course that's going to depend on where they're at in the initiative order. But now when we get to the initiative of the Boulder, it's going to be coming through, and what it's going to do is it's going to sprout magical black tentacles. So these tentacles are going to just come out of the Boulder, and they are going to have a reach of 20 feet. So as this thing on initiative 7, this Boulder is going to make it all the way to here. And as it's doing that, anything in its path, whether it's in front of the Boulder or hidden in the alcove, it's going to get an attack roll on it. So when this Boulder gets to this point, the DM will make an attack roll. Now what gets added to the die roll is going to depend on how hard you want to make this trap. If you want to make it easy, maybe add +5. If you want to make it near impossible, I mean, there are a lot of black tentacles that are just getting every outreach of these alcoves. I mean, you could put like a +10 on that. So let's say we have this character here. Ooh, we roll a 10. Or we roll a 2, that's a 12, so perhaps that rogue just misses it. He's able to fend off these tentacles, and this Boulder continues to roll, and we have this character here. Ooh, natural 20. So this character here, let's say maybe this is our sorcerer, is grappled by this black tentacle. And not only is the sorcerer grappled, but now they're also going to take 3d6 of bludgeoning damage as the tentacle kind of just reaches around, wraps around the character, and just starts to squeeze it. So now this character is grappled and is being moved this way with the Boulder. And again, maybe this character here didn't make it all the way, and our Boulder is going to get to this area. We're going to roll 6 + 10 is a 16. This might be our barbarian or what have you, and maybe that is exactly their armor class. So now this one's going to get grappled. And again, they're going to take 3d6 of bludgeoning damage, and they're grappled, and that will end the Boulder's turn right here. Now for the characters that are grappled, they can make a dexterity or a strength check, and we will set the DC. So depending on how hard we want to make this trap encounter. So let's say we're nice and we put this at a DC of let's go DC of 15. Our sorcerer friend is not able to break the grapple, but our barbarian is. So our barbarian's able to break the grapple and get away from this Boulder. Now again, on the Boulder's turn, it's going to continue, and it is going to smash down into here, and it's just going to drop straight down. So now our sorcerer is going to not only take another 3d6 of bludgeoning damage from the tentacle just squeezing the life out of it, but now they're also going to take falling damage. As this Boulder starts to go down there, the sorcerer's body is going to be banged off of the side of the walls of this chasm or this pit. And again, up to you as the DM or GM how you set it up. Let's say that it's just a nasty fall, and we're going to roll 66 of bludgeoning damage, and at this point our sorcerer is probably unconscious if they lived through that, or barely breathing. And after this Boulder sinks down into the pit, and we can make this as deep as we want. Let's say that this thing goes down, let's say it drops down about 40 feet. And it's a 20-foot Boulder. So now our sorcerer, if they're still alive, has a 20-foot climb to get to the top. And once again, as the DM or GM, we got to set a DC for the climb. Let's just do another DC 15. Oh, our sorcerer is not able to climb out, and climbs probably about halfway up, falls, maybe it's wet rock or something like that, and is going to take some more bludgeoning damage from the fall. And that's if they're trying to climb and get their way out. So again, that's going to do it for the basic idea of the trap. And there's a lot of variables here. So as a DM or GM, you have to decide, do you want to make this a very deadly trap? If you do, you're going to want to give the attack bonus of the black tentacles a +5, +10, maybe a +15 if you have some really high level characters. So that's one variable that you can adjust. Another variable you can adjust is how much damage do they take from being squeezed by the tentacles. So is it 3d6, maybe just a d6? Do you want to crank it up to 5d6? And not only that, but how long will the tentacles last? Let's say that this Boulder goes smashing down down into the pit. Maybe this black tentacles magical effect stays active for another 5 rounds. So if our sorcerer friend that went down into this pit doesn't make the escape for the strength or dexterity, maybe they just continually get squeezed, and you have that issue as well. So like I said, all kinds of variables, a number of different ways that you can tweak this trap. And of course, let's not forget that our adventurers are on a quest, are looking for an item. So let's include a secret door here that will take them to a chamber where they find some treasure or that item they're looking for, or whatever it is that they need to fulfill their quest. So to summarize, this is the Ball of Tentacles trap, and I would call this probably a little bit of both, a mechanical and a magical trap. The mechanical being the release of the boulder, which can be done through a pressure plate or even through a magical effect like maybe some type of glyphs that are on the wall, or it's just released by the motion of something moving through that area. But regardless, this boulder is released and starts tearing down this hallway, and the DC to find this, again, I'm going to probably go none. I'm going to call this a motion sensor type of a trigger. This is probably going to be at the end level of where I'm having my characters go through, and this is going to be like one of the final boundaries or one of the final tests or challenges that they face before they find that magical item they've been trying so long or looking for so long. And again, that's up to the DM. You can include a DC to search and find, totally up to the DM on that. A DC to disable, again, I'm going to go none because of the initial trigger is just going to be motion based. And the effect, we are going to roll for initiative. The boulder has an initiative of 7, and as it comes tearing down this corridor, it's going to sprout magical black tentacles, and these tentacles, there's going to be at least 8 of them, and they're going to go out and attack anything that's in its way as it's rolling down there. If they're in that little alcove, it's going to snag them. If they're running in front of it, it's going to snag them. And it's also going to crush anything in its path. So if the character only has 40 feet of movement, this boulder is going to smash that character. And then this is going to take 2 turns before it crashes into the pit, because it's going to move, the boulder is going to move at 60 feet per turn. And also, once again, there is a plus 10 on the boulder with the tentacles attack roll. So if there are 4 characters, it's going to have 4 attacks, each of them at plus 10. If a character is hit, they're going to take 3d6 worth of bludgeoning damage, and they're going to be grappled. And on their next turn, that character can try to escape with a dexterity or a strength check, acrobatics or athletics. If the characters are grappled and go all the way into the pit with the boulder, they're going to take additional falling damage, 6d6, and they have to climb out. Or I may have the tentacles stick around for another 5 rounds and continually squeeze that character. And again, the location of this, probably the best location is in an ancient abandoned temple in the jungle, just like the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So that's all I have for you today. Again, that is the Ball of Tentacles, and you can find that in Trapsmith by Kobold Press. So with that, what did you think of the trap? Is this something that you could use in your game? And if so, what would you do differently? Don't forget to leave a comment below. It really helps the channel out a lot. If you'd like to chat with myself, a lot of other great folks about D&D, or get some help and advice, come on over and join our Discord community. The link is in the comments below. Also, I've started a Patreon, so I'm working on a few goals and levels and things of that nature. Hope to have more information about that soon, but you can go ahead and start supporting the channel now if you'd like to do that. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate you watching, and on to the next.